everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. 38 days, guys. So tell us who your favorite number 38 is, as we are 38 days away from kickoff. Also, be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking this morning, and then get those questions in. And let's jump right into it. A lot to talk about today. Recruiting. Big visit weekend on the horizon. What's the latest, Jerry?
I was going to say, first of all, Ramon here says, "Morning Nation from Beaumont, where the bottom is falling out." Yeah, I mean, I might have to do some of this live stream in a kayak if it doesn't stop raining. So it's rained a lot, and obviously the Golden Triangle is getting even more. So be safe out there on the roads, everybody, including me, in about an hour. So now it's look, tomorrow, end of the dead period. Dead period ends 11:59 p.m. tonight. So obviously face-to-face contact can begin at 12:01, midnight, 12:01, whatever you call it. Again, with prospects in the 2025 class. Texas will host on Thursday a pool party recruiting event. Not a big event. They're not trying to get 70, 80 kids there. Some select guys, maybe some guys that haven't been on campus before, a few 2025 targets potentially. Obviously, we've talked about Jonah Williams and we've talked about Michael Terry. Texas is working on a couple other guys. We'll see who shows up in Austin tomorrow in that regard. Then you have a number of 2026s. I mean, you have some commits too. KJ Lacey will be back in town. Nick Townsend's going to make the event. I've talked with more guys that are committed that can't make it on a Thursday because parents work, they just have stuff going on, high school workouts, or maybe resuming, just summer track. I mean, just whatever people have here heading into the season. I mean, Caleb Chester, Cade Phillips, the Colemans, guys I've talked to, Jackson Christian, a lot of those guys, the next time they'll be in Austin will probably be for the season opener. But a number of 2026s will be on hand, including Babbel, 2026 quarterback commitment, third visit since March when he was offered by Texas. Chris Stewart, the wide receiver commitment, will be there. A number of others. I think two of the top running back targets in 2026 will be there on campus. There you see that list right there. Javian Osborne, you see there at the bottom. I think he's on top of the in-state running back board. The out-of-state running back board, Amari Latimer from Sandy Creek in that Atlanta area. Texas desperately wants to have more of a footprint, an annual footprint in the metro Atlanta, or even South Georgia area moving forward. So you see the Jamarians. I went over that yesterday. Make sure those name tags are far apart. I said this on Recruiting Breakdown. Make sure those name tags are far apart. You don't want the wrong Jamarian getting the wrong name tag. It should be easy. Carlton 6'4", 240. Vincent 6'1", 6'2", 165. Make sure those things are far apart, though. That's when recruiting can go bad. Nicholas Robertson will end up being a 4-star prospect. He's the guy from Klein that Texas really liked. They went to see him in the spring, but he was recovering from injury, so Texas didn't offer him. How bad did he want the Texas offer? He came to Texas camp, on Texas elite camp, with a cast on his wrist and competed for an offer and was arguably the most physical lineman there. And so he walked away with an offer. Really good guard prospect there. There you see Jordan Clay. Jordan Clay and Zion Robinson from Mansfield are two wide receivers at the elite camp that tore it up. They were next level guys. So Jordan Clay back on campus. I think Texas is a big leader for him. And so that 2026 list is growing. There you see J.J. Hahn. He'll end up being a 4-star defensive lineman from Rancho Santa Margarita Catholic. He's originally from Berlin, Germany. He actually just got back from Berlin. He went in late June, late June, left to go see his parents in Germany. Now he's back. He flies in on Thursday. We'll visit Texas Friday, and just don't start shaking, but then he goes to Oregon for a visit after that. I think Georgia's probably the favorite if they make the push for him, with Texas and Oregon likely to get September official visits as well. I think he will schedule his official visit date to Texas on this visit Friday. That's based on talking to somebody very close to that recruitment. The only official visit he has locked in right now is Georgia, the 7th through 9th of September. He went to Georgia in early June, along with Alabama, Florida, Auburn, went up to Ohio State. Everybody offered him once they saw him in person. People had gone through in the spring. They liked what they saw. Then when he came in person, met with head coaches, met with everybody, everybody's offered him. So even though he's not a name now, he's going to be a big name senior year. This will be his third year of playing organized football. He started playing ball in Germany. I actually, when I was at ESPN Under Armour, we did a camp over there in Cologne, Germany. It was awesome. Kids really do like football there. There aren't many at the level of J.J. Hahn, obviously, but 6'4", 280 with a lot of upside. So it's going to be a good grip. Sorry, good grip. It's going to be a good group, and we'll see what comes of it.
You mentioned that name tag story. That goes back to an infamous day when the Longhorns gave Ronald Jones, the running back out of McKinney, that ended up going to USC. But one of the reasons why is because his name tag was Roland Jones. That kind of hurt. That'll hurt your chances if you don't know the guys.
Right name tags to the right players, and it better be spelled the correct way, else Mama always notices first.
Yeah. He was a real possibility going to Texas too.
Yeah,
that's a shame, but that was not the only recruitment that there was a snafu on, by the way, during the Charlie Strong era. Although Charlie Coach Strong did recruit pretty well. Also, hey, a week from today, the Longhorns get back on the football field. Texas starts practice, according to Steve Sarkisian, on July 31st. They obviously they're not in helmets and shoulder pads and full gear for 3 days, the first 3 practices. So it won't be full contact, etc. But we'll see exactly what they allow. Derek is asking, is media allowed at the beginning of practice next week? We have not heard yet from the sports information folks at the University of Texas. Obviously, if we are, Jerry and I, at the very least, will be there, as well as CJ, probably too. So we'll see how that all goes. A couple other things I wanted to mention. Jeff Banks, the special teams coach, got married over the weekend. He's there with his wife, Danielle. Congratulations to Coach Banks. Sark there, a bunch of other Texas assistants. I see Tashard Choice peeking out from the back. Brandon Harris there as well.
Chris Gilbert, Taylor Searles. It looks like Chris Jackson maybe back there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Quite a few. Congratulations to Jeff Banks on his wedding there. All right, I need to say thank you before we get going this morning to our sponsor on the Wednesday live stream, Coffee and Football. That is Adam Lowy. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, including an ATV even, and think you might be due some compensation, give Adam and his group a shout at loweylawfirm.com. They have more than 20 years of experience. They give a free consultation to anybody that calls in. Check and see if you're due some compensation. loweylawfirm.com. Thanks again to Adam and his group for sponsoring Coffee and Football and making this possible.
Here's Racer X with an old going down memory lane. Remember a friend of Darius White name tag incidents? Texas gave a name tag to a high school teammate of Darius White, who was so pissed. He went to OU and was a really good linebacker for him. That was a good trip down recruiting memory lane there.
Forgot all about that one. Hey, before we move on to some more recruiting stuff, real quick, Jerry, Mike G wants to know, do current players ever attend the pool party? Seems like it would be an effective tool for those that have friends already on the team.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's a recruiting event. I mean, there will be guys involved, let's say. They're going to be around. They're around anyways. But guys that are part of these recruitments will certainly be around.
There you go. And then I know while we're on the subject of recruiting, you recently over on TexasFootball.com posted an updated recruiting board. Can you give us the latest with your updated recruiting board?
Yeah, so I need to send one recruiting text real quick. Hold on.
Live update right here.
No, yeah, you have, or it's a text. Look, I think what's interesting, I put a lot of names on this board on Texas Football. Reintroduced a couple of names, which I think are key. I think Chase Sims, defensive lineman out of Richmond Randall, committed to A&M. And then Derry Norris, defensive lineman from Spruce Creek, committed to Georgia Tech. We've said for a while, it was shortly after Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma both committed, Sharma to Oregon and Charles to FSU, that they're remaining in contact with colleges. Nothing's changed there. That includes Texas. So, look, we know how Steve Sarkisian recruits. The 1A guys, they recruit, you hate the term, recruit through the whistle or recruit through December 4th, whichever one you want to call it. With those guys, they'll continue to try to get those guys on campus whenever that's possible. But, yeah, I've added to the list a little bit. It's a pretty good look at what's left, what's in front of Texas right now, who has decisions to make, what committed guys Texas could be staying in contact with. And then reintroducing a couple of new names. And then it'll be interesting. One thing I wrote in there was we always have to remember Xavier Filsaime, top 100 prospect in the country, didn't have a Texas offer this time last year. Aaron Butler, top 200 level prospect in the country, didn't have a Texas offer this time last year. So there will be a few names added to that list as we get into these guys' senior seasons and those evaluations take place in Texas. Really, after these summer commitments are over, Texas truly sees where they're at in terms of their needs in this class.
I look at it, Jerry, you talk about the re-engagement with the defensive lineman or just continued engagement. People may not like the term recruit through the whistle. I don't really care. And I don't think Sark cares whether they like it or not, but that's the way he's going to do it. And, so be it, in my opinion. I will say this. I posted a note yesterday. I was going through some old stuff, and I saw a photo of Earl Campbell at John Tyler, and somebody behind me on the message board put in some video of Earl Campbell in high school. Well, I went on a little search this morning, and I found a little video of Ricky Williams in high school. So this is a little treat for those of us joining us on YouTube right now. You're seeing Ricky Williams, a high school senior at Patrick Henry High School in San Diego, California. If the volume was turned up, you could hear the crowd going, "Go, Ricky, go!" It was look at this hit. He laid the wood, dude. That's Ricky right there, guys.
The crazy thing is he had probably the quickest and most powerful combination of pitter-patter steps I've seen from a running back. I mean, but then he had enough ride-out speed. He had enough ride-out speed. But I've always argued this about Ricky Williams. I still think if football was his everything, he might have been a top 3 or 4 running back of all time in the history of the sport. I would say this. There may not be a body that was more perfectly built to play running back than Ricky Williams. Just a frame, body type, the makeup of that body. I'm not sure there was actually truly better body built to play running back than his that I've seen in person in my lifetime.
No offense to Ricky, but look at that. Just physicality. He's to your point, Jerry, he's built like a square. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean that negatively. I'm just saying that's him. Watch this return that he makes. It is. I mean, give me a break. That's a DB. That's a running back playing DB. He's just a big time player. Really liked Ricky as a running back in high school. I ranked him the #1 fullback in the country coming out of high school, Jerry. And one of the reasons I did it, because you can see he's so darn big. And look where he lines up. It's a short pivot. It's not even a full tailback position that he's running out of. So it is what it is. He ended up being one of the best tailbacks of all time in the college football ranks. So I wanted to share that with you guys this morning. Just to get you up and going, a little football feeling this morning with the Longhorns. 38 days away from when the Longhorns take on the Colorado State Rams. Who is the best 38 of all time at the University of Texas? I'm not sure about of all time, but recent memory, I'll go with this guy. Troy Kelly, I think, has got it right. Roderick McElroy would be 38 days away, in my opinion. Yeah. For the Longhorns. Good stuff there as well.
Oh, here's something. Sandman has something. Sorry. For anyone wondering, Michigan Athletics put the UT fans in the last 10 rows of sections 7 through 15. Little there. Something to know there about the Michigan game for those going up there.
7 through 15, the last section of rows 7 through 15 for the Longhorns. Blake, what you got for us next, buddy?
All right. So next, yesterday, the Shrine Bowl came out with their preseason watch list, and 15 Longhorns guys made the list. And Quinn Ewers, Trey Moore, Alfred Collins, Andrew Makuba, Johntay Barron, Barron Sorrell, Hayden Connor, Silas Bolden, Jake Majors, Gavin Holmes, Jermaine Lowell, David Benda, Gunnar Helm, Vernon Broughton, and last but not least, Bert Auburn. 15 horns on that preseason watch list for the Shrine Bowl.
Hey, Jerry, let's do something.
Yeah.
Other than the 15, this doesn't even include Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Amari Nyblack, some guys like that we think are going to be Ethan Burke that are juniors. But here's what I want to do with this list. You and me go right now and go down the list and say yes or no pro football player, like NFL football player. Okay, at least a 3-year guy. Okay, and you can say 50-50 or doubt it, But let's go.
Can we say that right before? Can I say something before we get started, just so people know? Because we sat next to the Shrine Bowl representative for lunch at SEC Media Days. But I don't want Texas fans to look at this and say, man, they think 15 guys are getting drafted. That's not it at all. The Shrine Bowl has like 750 seniors that they have on a watch list. So this is like a really big recruiting list in our industry. And then you come down and you cut that down and you cut that down and you cut that down. So they're starting with a big number. So, all right, go ahead. I just want to make sure fans
That's
that.
great. Now, yeah, they're not saying that 15 are going to hit drafted. Quinn Ewers is a yes for me. He's an NFL player. Trey Moore, I've got a yes. What about you?
Yes.
Alfred Collins.
Yes.
Me too. Andrew Makuba.
Yes.
Johntay Barron.
Should be, yes.
I'm going to go 50-50 on Johntay because I'm waiting to see if he gets his speed back.
Yeah.
If he gets his speed back, he's a definite. If he doesn't, that may be an issue for him. Barron Sorrell.
He'll be in a camp.
Yeah, he'll be in a camp, but will he get 3 years in the league? Questionable, right? I know, because it just depends.
Yeah.
A lot of it depends on fit for him. Hayden Connor.
No.
Okay, I agree. Silas Bolden is one of the bigger maybes on this because he's just so small. He's got to prove to us in this year that he's special, even though he's that small.
Yeah, I'll say this: if he can't make it, and there's a very select number of guys at that size that make it, he'll be hell on wheels in the Canadian League because of the rules.
There you go. Jake Majors, I'm going yes, Jerry.
I'm 50-50 for me, but yeah, I think he could get drafted, and then it's whether he sticks.
Okay. Gavin Holmes.
Undecided, would have to be free agent, and he'd have to make a team.
Okay, I'm going to say no at this point. Jermaine Lole, this was an interesting one because at one point in time in his career, after his sophomore year at Arizona State, he was considered one of the best young linemen in the nation. Then he got injured, got a string of injuries, not only at Arizona State, but also at Louisville, where he transferred to. Now he's back at Texas and is expected to be healthy for the first time, like truly healthy for the first time in 2 years. They've already got him on this list because I think they've had him on the list for 2 years.
And when we talked to Jim Nagy at the Senior Bowl, he has a NFL draftable grade headed in this year, and that's going to be based off his play at Louisville last year. I will say if he has a healthy season, he'll probably talent-wise make a roster, but I don't know if he'll get drafted because of his injury history. I think he's going to have to go get it done.
Somebody in the chat also just wrote that Barron Sorrell will make it because he's a grinder.
Those guys find a way.
A lot of truth to that. That's the difference between him and, say, a Cedric Reed.
I mean, in a way, yeah.
He had a lot of talent, but did not make it in the league.
You know who else is a grinder? Jordan Whittington.
Yep.
Even though he's an athlete, he's still a grinder.
Yep, I agree. Good point. David Benda, I'm going to say no. This will be his first true year starting, even though He does have some physical traits. Gunnar Helm is a yes for me, Jerry.
Yes for me.
Okay. Vernon Broughton is a no for me at this point. Bert Auburn, take those last two. Bert Auburn's just got to find a fit. It is like there's only 32 jobs. That's like your PGA Tour card. Once you get it, you're in. You know,
and that's a worldwide sport at kicker and punter.
Yes, yeah.
You're not just competing with the college kids. I don't know if his leg strength comparative to the NFL guys. Well, it'll be interesting to see.
He hit like a 53, 54 yarder against Texas Tech. But to your point, those guys are whacking 57 to 60 yarders now. Not
with
even
10 to spare. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, yeah, you look at that list, and Jerry, the yeses are for sure yeses on our end are yours, Moore, Collins, Makuba, and then you go down, I think, to possibly Lole, Helm, and then that's the group that we think will definitely make it. Guys like Sorrell, Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, other guys in there as well, like Bert Auburn too.
So let's explain this. This is just seniors or fourth-year players on this list. Fourth-year players or seniors up on this list. So the Kelvin Bankses of the world, the Cam Williams of the world, Jaden Blues, Isaiah Bonds, Matthew Goldens, those guys already have draftable grades from the Senior Bowl because they can invite those guys to their game. So the Shrine Bowl's not even going to worry about putting those guys on the list because they're not eligible for their game currently.
All right, guys. Real quick question here while we were talking about Helm just a second ago. Ashley wants to know, do you think Helm could be better than Nyblack?
I think the question actually is he better, not can he be better?
Is he better?
Yeah, I mean, and that is there's the reason I pointed that out is there's some nuance to that in my answer. And that is, I think that Helm is better all around right now as a tight end than Nyblack. I don't think Gunnar Helm has the upside of Amari Nyblack, though. Gunnar Helm's going to be a better inline blocker right now. Amari Nyblack is going to be a better deep threat. I'm interested to see how we can talk about receivers all we want with like which of the 6 or 7 guys Sark has right now that can produce, we think, which ones he's going to use. Maybe the most interesting thing he might do on offense this year, you could say, is Amari Nyblack. Like, what do you do with a guy like that? Because Sark has never had a guy like that. I mean, he didn't have a guy like that at Alabama. He didn't have that. He had Billingsley for like half a year or something. I mean, and that was when before Billingsley like kind of stopped liking football. So I think that Helm is the better player today. I think Helm is going to play in the NFL. So he's absolutely a good player. The question I have is, where does Amari Nyblack fit in 6 weeks, in 10 weeks, and then a year from now? I mean, he has the ability to be a high draft pick.
I think he's the most talented tight end prospect Texas has had since Jermichael Finley.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Gifted, just gifted. He's gifted.
Now we'll see if they can get it out of him. Some of those Alabama guys have come here and not done well. Okay, let's be honest. You have, what is it? Ben Davis was one of them. Jaleel Billingsley, Jai Hall. But then at the same time, you get a guy like Keelan Robinson, and you were just talking about a grinder. Keelan Robinson's a grinder. Yeah, and so I think it all depends on the kid. We'll see if Amari Nyblack has put in the work, because that's really what it comes down to.
He sure looked good physically walking out of the facility around the spring game. I was like, whoa, okay.
If he's serious about football, he's going to play football for a long time.
Yes, 100%.
Well, fellas, the future looks to be bright at the tight end position. So bright you may need sunglasses. So, Jerry, tell folks where they can get those sunglasses.
Fine. Look, here it is. Here's my Goodrs. I wear them every day. I have an idea for Goodr. That I need these today. The next shade you make need to have windshield wipers on them. Can Goodr make one of those for $25? If they can, ma'am, That'd be unbelievable. But look, why Goodrs? No slip, no bounce, all polarized, all fun, 1-year warranty, which you'll never need. That's just being nice, right? These could stay on my face forever. 30-day free returns, which again, you won't need that. But there now have a new product, the Retro G. This is not it, by the way, but you can check them out. New vintage inspired shades. The Retro Gs are available in 4 colors. Our favorite name of the bunch, Threaten Me with a Good Time. 38 days away. I'm threatening you with a good time. Football season's right around the corner. You want these on when Colorado State comes to town. It's going to be 1,080 degrees. When you will be using your Goodrs this summer, share a bit about why they're the perfect summer accessory. Tell your friends why you have your Goodrs on. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Goodr is giving On Texas all caps listeners free shipping. You can go to Goodr.com/On Texas. Use code On Texas for free shipping. Goodr offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. As I've said, you won't need that. And 100% satisfaction. They could have said 1,000%, and it would have still been the same sentence for me to read. Again, Goodr.com/On Texas, all caps. The only thing I need is windshield wipers on them this morning.
Houston, Texas will never be the same if it's not either hot as you know what or raining. I mean, I grew up in Houston, and it is the muggiest city I've ever lived in by far. And I think as far as muggy cities go, that and New Orleans are the two for me, and there's a reason for that.
And Orlando.
Hey, I love Houston though, so I'm a product of it and love that city. Hey, we also need to tell folks about Babbel. 1 in 5 Americans have learn a new language on their bucket list. If that's you, make 2024 the year you finally check it off the list with Babbel. I'm doing it myself right now and taking courses in Spanish. If you fast forward to the end of 2024 and think of your goals, what you can do right now to give yourself the best chance of succeeding in learning a new language, you absolutely should get Babbel. Did you know learning actually makes a sound? It's true. Listen, Babbel, that's the sound of you learning a new language. Babbel is best for you with science-backed language learning app that actually works. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for private tutors or waste hours on apps that don't actually help you speak the language. Babbel's tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. Here's a limited-time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at Babbel.com/On Texas. Get up to 60% off at Babbel.com/On Texas, spelled Babbel.com/On Texas. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Got a little update here. Just heard from Jamie French. He's going to LSU Thursday and Friday, Miami Saturday and Sunday. No Georgia OV.
Interesting. Boy, LSU's trying to make a run right now, Jerry. They've had some push. Aiden Anding is supposed to be there over the weekend as well, the defensive back out of Ruston.
Yeah, LSU trying to get Jonah Williams on campus as well. That's just the name of the game. Last visit weekend before the season.
All right, y'all. We got a super chat we need to get to from our friend Jack. And thank you, as always, Jack, for the super chats. He says, Jerry, do you expect a high to commit officially tomorrow or this weekend? And do you expect some more highs soon?
Well, there's some decisions coming up, so quite possibly. I could a 2026 guy break soon? Possibly.
There you go. And we have some other high questions here. People want to know how many highs you still have and when the next announcements are coming up. I know you said some decisions soon, but who is announcing here soon?
Yeah, the announcement kind of event days of announcements that are scheduled are Khalil Lockett August 7th. You have Michael Fasusi's August 22nd. I think he's put out the 21st. I expect that to be the 22nd. I believe the 22nd is the day him and his family moved to the States. I think that's a significant date for him. Jamie French, who we just mentioned, is visiting LSU in Miami this weekend. He is August 30th. Nick Brooks is late September. That's going to fall right into, is it the end of summer, which ends September 22nd? Is it later than that? We'll see. Madden Faramo could be an August, September decision. I think Michael Terry is now leaning to before the season. So that's an August decision, could be early August decision. You have Aiden Anning, who's at LSU this weekend, potential before the season or early in the season commitment coming. So, I mean, you look at up and down this list, and a lot of guys are about to make decisions prior to their senior season. And we've said this before, probably 80 to 85% of these kids are committed prior to senior season. That's a big number. Now, does that mean they all sign at those schools? No. But these kids want to have, and I think the coaches, the high school coaches, the people around them, push them to have a decision prior to their senior season or early in their senior season, but most of the time prior to their senior season, so they can just have fun and take some of the stress away, because this process, it's fun for these kids for about a year and a half. And then it gets stressful at the end. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on these kids, especially like you look this weekend, just the pressure to come on campus one more time. Look, when you put out a decision date, like a Jamie French did, August 30th, and these schools that are recruiting you, they said, okay, they know Texas is the favorite. They also know that commitment date's before everybody kicks a football on Saturdays. And you also know with high school practice starting, school starting, kid in Jacksonville, the schools he's looking at is hours away, Miami, hours away in Baton Rouge, Knoxville, what have you, the schools that are really involved there, that this is the last weekend to know you're going to get him on campus before he makes a decision. So my point in that is these kids they start feeling pressure in this process. Now, Jamie does it with a smile, but there is pressure for these kids in this recruiting process. Once they put out a date, everybody, that's a bullseye date now. That's a target. All these colleges know. They also, when a kid puts out a date, they know a lot of times these guys in their mind have a pretty good feel for where they're going. So the ones that are in competition, there's a mad dash to get them on campus one more time.
And then, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, absolutely. David Mills just got in here live from Rogers, Arkansas. I haven't heard much lately concerning Johntay Cook. Anything up, or is he still doing real well? I think he's doing real well. I don't know what everyone's expectations of him are, though. Some people, I think their expectations are he's going to be the greatest receiver since sliced bread. Some are he's going to be really good and a player. Some are he's just going to be a guy. I think he's in the middle there. So I think Johntay is an NFL prospect, no doubt about it. Okay. The question is, how good is he going to be long term? We'll see. I do think that he is expected to be one of the better receivers this season. What I will add to that, David, is this. I spoke with Fozzie Whitaker last week. Fozzie thinks Johntay is one of the leaders of the receiver room. That's not really surprising because he's actually the one that's been there the longest, just about, of all the Longhorns, and actually got some playing time a year ago. But Fozzie was real high on Johntay Cook as a long-term player. And so I took that, and I've heard some things behind the scenes as well. Johntay takes football seriously. So while I would say to you that he is not Ryan Wingo athletically, okay, he's close enough, but he's not that. He takes football seriously enough. I think he's going to maximize what and who he is. And that's the key part about Johntay Cook.
I think the thing to remember, too, with wide receivers that come to Texas is even though Johntay was highly successful at DeSoto, right, it's still a difficult scheme to pick up and just kind of transition right into for a college freshman, even if you have a spring practice. So I think, look, with Johntay, part of that's just mental maturity. It's not always about physical development. It's also about that mental maturity and development and the understanding. And I'm not saying he didn't do this. I'm just saying with receivers that come into this scheme, which it's a pro scheme. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot that goes with it. You have to be able to truly lock in every day, sometimes all day, as a young football player to really ascend quickly at that position. And that's something unlike they've ever had to do before. So there's a lot that comes with playing wide receiver in Sark's scheme that maybe isn't talked about enough when we just talk about all these guys' strengths as players.
And let's stay on some team-related questions here, guys. King Me says, will Sark be a better chess master this year with Ewers back at the helm?
I think that's a good question. It's the first time he's had a long-term quarterback at Texas. Right?
Yep.
That's a legitimate question. His third-year quarterbacks seem to do very well, by the way. And my thought is I think he will be. I think that the offense will open up a little bit more. I don't know how much, though. And we talk about it, Jerry, and we talked about the Shrine Bowl earlier and all those players. And we also heard what the guy at the Senior Bowl said about how LSU, Alabama, and Georgia individually may have more defensive talent than the entire Big 12, at least the former Big 12. They did a couple of years back. At least had more guys at the NFL Combine than the entire Big 12 on defense, each individual school. So that's another one of these things as Texas goes into a new conference, we'll see if Sark's, chess game actually can translate to a more difficult league. That is the question. I think he's going to be, I think he can use it better, and I think he'll improve Quinn Ewers this year. The question is by how much vis-a-vis the competition they might see. And I don't know the answer to that. They get a really early test in Michigan because I'm not so sure Michigan won't be, even with talking about all those guys in the SEC, even with the entire SEC, I think Michigan may have the best defense Texas faces next year.
I agree.
That includes Georgia, Florida, any of those teams. Kentucky has a great defense. I think Michigan may have the best.
Our next one from Jeff the Dude. He says, I haven't heard much about Colin Simmons. Sometimes that's a good thing. Just wondering if there's been any buzz.
A lot of buzz.
Yeah, a lot of buzz.
I mean, look, he's 240-ish weight-wise. I think he'll probably play in that area code after August practices, the heat of August practices. But look, I continue to just be told that Trey Moore and Colin Simmons have a different twitch off the edge than anybody else. Colin has the ability to be a high NFL draft pick. It's always up to these guys to go get it done. But, he has that ability. If you circled a list of 10 guys on this roster that have first-round NFL draft pick ability, he's one of those 10 guys. So I think a lot of people have asked 5.5 sacks, 6.5 sacks for him. If the number's 5.5, I'm taking the over with him this year. I think he's that level player when he's healthy. And I do think I was at the Under Armour game last year covering that event. He had a high ankle sprain he played with through the last probably few games of the season. They shut him down at Under Armour. The trainer there on hand said legitimate high ankle sprain. He doesn't need to do anything down here. So he legitimately played through it last year at the end of the year. If people say maybe didn't think he looked as explosive as junior year at times, but if he's healthy, I think he goes over 5.5 sacks for the season, with the caveat that you can get 2 against UL and Monroe, and 2 you could get 4 sacks in the first 4 games of the year, and you're going to 6. So, but I think if you set the number at 5.5, I'd take the over on sacks. I think he's that level kid off the edge.
Wow. If they could get that out of him, Jerry, that's just you've said that before. It's not the first time you said it. That's just going to be big. That bottom line, that'll be big. But that's why you get the elite guys. That's why you get the elite guys. If he can have the effect that Anthony Hill had on the defense as a true freshman, more power to him. More power to him. All right, hey, we need to do a ad read for our friends over at BetterHelp. This episode of On Texas Football brought to you by the folks at BetterHelp. There are a lot of helpful apps out there, but it would be difficult for any of them to be more useful than BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is an app that helps those in need to find the help they deserve. Maybe you're having personal issues that you just can't figure out. Maybe you get caught up comparing yourself to someone else. That sounds like it'd be difficult. Maybe you've even experienced major trauma or lost a loved one recently. Whatever the case may be, if you're considering beginning therapy as an option, you'll want to check out BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So no matter what your own previous experience with therapy is, you can check out BetterHelp.com today. Again, convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Stop comparing yourself with others. Start doing something about it. Visit BetterHelp.com/OnTexas today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/OnTexas.
Hey, Rodrigo Ruiz has a good question. I kind of want to take a shot at here. Hold on.
Go ahead.
All right. How much will in-helmet communication help Sark having NFL experience with it? So I don't look at it from the NFL kind of experience with it. Where I think the helmet communication is really going to help all college football play callers and their quarterbacks is rowdy road environments. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, the most impactful thing of the headset communication in reality in games is if you're playing at A&M, think about Brett Robin when Dr. Robin came on this show and said Chris Sims was a foot away from him and he couldn't hear what he was saying at College Station. That's also goes into communication. Everybody has the signs, but just communication in general when you're playing in really loud environments on the road. Bobby, to be able to communicate up until the 15-second mark, I think is invaluable on the road for a play caller and his quarterback.
You know what Sark said about it that I thought was, something that you and I don't even think about necessarily, or the common fan wouldn't think about? He said it's not so much for the play call that it's valuable, because he can still get the play call in
right
on the sideline by signals, etc. He said it's good for him to reinforce certain things with the play call. Hey, Quinn, this is the play call. Right, left, XYZ, whatever. Make sure you look at the first receiver on your right first. It's that add-on. Or Quinn, they may be blitzing on this play off the left side. They've had some success. Those sorts of little add-ons.
Yeah.
Are what Sark is interested in, because those little add-ons, not just the play call, can be the difference between a big play getting blown up or being successful. And this is another one. Hey, make sure you tell the right guard to pull quicker. He's got to get out of there really quick on this one. Those little things that Quinn can hear after the play call, those are the important things that I think Quinn as a quarterback can help long-term and Sark help really focus on.
Solid point, Ski-Breck, have to say. Good point.
Jerry Hamilton thinks the Aggies are going to have functioning headsets this year. What happens, I've got to say this because not a lot of people know this, but when headsets go down during a game on one side or the other team also has to take their headsets off. So I think Ski-Breck is referencing the fact that, hey, we may not see it. Who is handling defensive communication? Derek asked that. Pete Kwiatkowski with Anthony Hill. It'd definitely be Pete Kwiatkowski. I think it's sounding more and more like it's either going to be David Benda or Johntay Barron at this point. They haven't decided based on what I know at this point, whether it's going to be Benda or Barron. The idea being essentially, hey, can we signal in what we want to do in the back end easier or the front end? We'll see how that works.
Let's see there. Our next question comes from James Henson. He says, hook 'em, Jerry and Bobby. How can we not be better in the secondary with the more mature Williams, Makuba, and Muhammad?
I think Texas will be better. I think they've drastically improved safety play. That's with the addition of Makuba, who's better than the guys that departed, a faster and better football player. And then Derek Williams, freshman to sophomore year. If he makes the jump, the really talented freshmen do from year 1 to year 2 in college football, that's a big jump for a player. The biggest jumps are year 1 to year 2. So if he makes that level jump like you expect him to, that's a heavily upgraded position. Michael Taft, obviously in his role, year 3. I think Jelani McDonald, what is he going to look like come August now that he's settled in there? And I've said this before. I said it yesterday. You get back to those third team guys. I mean, look, Xavier Filsaime and Jordan Johnson-Rubel, that's upgrades in depth as well. So hopefully they get their feet wet a little bit if they're forced into more action at some point in the season, because there will be an injury or two. The 2 deep's going to have to change due to injury at times. And they're ready to go. But that's a high level, 2 high level players they brought in the recruiting class at that position. And corner wise, Manny Muhammad, year 1 to year 2 jump, I think he's going to make it. I think a lot of, look, Javion Cole, that's a big piece for me. I think you kind of a more physical Gavin Holmes, which I think he will be as a senior, taking on more of a lead from the front mentality, which is key for him as a senior. But what is Javion Cole a playmaker on the ball? I think that's going to be so big for Texas, given that solid third corner, somebody to compete with Holmes. Then if I say one more key for me, who emerges as the fourth corner? Does a Warren Roberson take that step to where he has the coverages down and they don't worry about blown assignments if he's out there for extended period of time because he's got the size, he's got the skill set? Or is it going to be somebody, one of the young freshmen that kind of makes a jump here in August? I think Nichols really strong. If you just say Barron, Gilbo, and Jordan Johnson-Rubel, that's really strong.
Jerry Hamilton, how come you never mentioned Jelani McDonald at safety? I think he will be a stud. Here's the reason I think Jerry gets going on that. First of all, there are 3 coming back that we know are going to play a lot. Michael Taft, Andrew Makuba, and I say he's coming back. He's been a 3-year starter at Clemson. So he's coming. He didn't transfer to Texas out of Clemson to not play. He's going to play, and he's going to be good. And then Derek Williams returning, which is the same age as Jelani McDonald. The reason he doesn't get mentioned is we don't know yet whether or not he's really a safety. Dwayne Aquina and Will Muschamp both said the same thing. It's not add water instant player. They both said the same thing to me, and they've said it to you as well. And those are 2 of the better defensive minds, in my opinion, that have come through Texas in the last 20 years. And what they mean is really simple. I mean, some of these guys, it takes seasoning. And Jelani McDonald has not played safety full time. This will be his first full year. I mean, I think he's going to play a role and can learn it. But let's see. I mean, some people thought maybe Keaton Crawford could learn it. And he had 3 years there and didn't really get there, right? That's what we're talking about with Jelani McDonald. It's not the athleticism. Keaton Crawford has the athleticism and the speed. Jelani McDonald has the athleticism and speed. Correct. Ryan Nelson. Jelani is only 19. He still needs another year to marinate. That's probably true too.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at with all these players. And the other thing I would say to Jerry's point about the secondary being better overall, which I completely agree with. We did the better or worse video on Monday, Jerry. I definitely think the secondary is better. They've got more speed back there. Jalen Gilbo, I think, is going to factor in here. I don't know how, but Steve Sarkisian mentions his name just too darn much.
Yeah.
Not to, and hopefully Jade gets back to full speed this fall. But I'm very encouraged by the speed and athleticism they're putting in the secondary right now. That's what I'll say overall. Are they perfect? Is this the Georgia secondary? No, it's not. So I understand and they don't have a dude yet, at least, like Will Johnson, the corner at Michigan. They don't have a top 5 pick back there. So I understand that, but they've got some guys, and I think they'll be better this year.
Next question comes from Ivory Martin. He says, what true freshman will make the biggest impact outside of Wingo? And he did add Simmons. He's personally hoping Kobe Black, but what's y'all's answer?
That is actually a tremendous question, because there's players we would say that means there's injury. That is the kind of the question you don't want to have to go down right now. I mean, look, could Alex January over the course of the season push his way into the defensive line rotation? Looks great physically. But we've just talked about adding 3 interior D linemen out of the portal that all have multiple years of Power 5 experience. We've been talking about this all summer. So you're sitting there, you have Alfred Collins, you have Bill Norton over the ball, Tia Savea, Jermaine Lole, who has an NFL draftable grade, Vernon Broughton. Jere Bledsoe in year 3, Aaron Bryant in year 3. Then you get down to Sadir Mitchell and Alex January. So there's a lot of experience that somebody like Alex January would have to clip on the way up. So early in the season, no. Late in the season, does he make that move? Does he take advantage of injury? Because there will be injury. We'll see. Anybody else you got, Bobby? If Santana Wilson had been a midterm enrollee, I might have gone with him as the 4th corner. But since he's not the midterm enrollee, I have a tough time going there now.
Yeah, I don't know that Santana Wilson is more gifted than Warren Roberson.
By the way, I forgot the obvious answer, but keep going.
The punter,
Michael Kern.
Yes, I knew you forgot him. But most of us don't focus on that as much as you do, Jerry, to be fair. All right. I had to get that dig in there. Hey, the ones that I wrote down while you were talking, and I know it's kind of hard to be spontaneous or just off the cuff on that stuff. Here are the ones that I wrote. Jordan Washington. Let's see what he does as an inline blocker. Because he's longer than Juan Davis, does he have a role game 6, game 7? I don't know. I also wrote down a big question mark. Short yardage back. Is that Cedric Baxter, or could that be Jarrett Gibson or Christian Clark?
I think they both could be red zone type guys as the season goes along.
So that's you see where I'm getting at here, right? Is that as a receiver, I'm being told don't count out Parker Livingstone. I'm just now, because again, Jerry, and I'll say why. Remember, we talked about this the other day. Sark at least wants one big body on the field. Like Adonai Mitchell last year was that big body outside, right? Well, Ryan Wingo is a big body, but none of the other. Matthew Golden is bigger, but he's not big. And so like he's not Adonai Mitchell even. And so can he sneak his way in there late? I don't think so, but I would put him in there. And then beyond that, I think it's probably whether or not a Phil Simi or Jordan Johnson-Rubel can beat out, say, Jelani McDonald to get into the safety rotation. And that all doesn't count a Anthony Smith on special teams. Yeah, Anthony Smith's going to play on special teams.
Yeah.
Kobe Black is going to play on special teams. Wardell Mack is going to play on. So take special teams out of it. I'm talking about how do those kind of players weave their way into the fabric of what Texas is going to put on, the product Texas is going to put out there this year.
The interesting thing is, here's a great question. Somebody ask it in the chat, or I'll ask it now. Out of the freshman class, who could start a game this year?
Other than Ryan Wingo?
Kern, Wingo, and Simmons are the 3 I have. If Texas has a healthy season. Otherwise, injuries have impacted positions.
Man, I don't know. I didn't see anybody. I will say this. I didn't see anybody among the freshmen outside of Ryan Wingo that I would say will start a game that could be better than a 50-50 shot of starting a game. Like I wouldn't even say Colin Simmons. He would probably end up needing to be, in my opinion, an injury guy. The other one that, like, I thought the best young offensive lineman on the roster right now, not including, non-senior or non-junior or senior, actually was Brandon Baker as a right tackle. Now, Trevor Gooseby and Jaden Chapman are also in there as well. But I can see Brandon Baker at right tackle if some things happen, so we'll see. Don't want him to happen. He and Gooseby and Chapman and Connor Robertson, Daniel Cruz and Nate Kibble, they all need time. But, it's a talented freshman class for Texas. It's just, we just went over the Senior Bowl roster or the Shrine Bowl stuff. They got 15 guys that are looking at potentially going to the Shrine Bowl. Texas has got a good roster right now, so it's hard. Noah Ellis says Aaron Butler could be a sleeper with the younger wide receiver room. That speed is tough to keep off the field. Yes, it is, but I don't know that Butler is appreciably faster than DeAndre Moore or Johntay Cook.
Quicker in short space, but not faster, right?
Right.
Butler's
He's definitely not faster than Silas Bolden.
Yeah. Butler's got that punt returner, really quick twitch, reactive movement. But again, freshman receiver, didn't play half his senior season. Some patience in development within the scheme, I think is going to be key. But I think that kid could be a very good player.
We got a few super chats we need to get to real quick. Going back to the helmet communication, Jack says, and thank you once again, Jack, we know helmet communication turns off at 15 seconds, but when does it turn on?
Immediately, is my understanding. After the play, or when the play clock starts. You know what? Because that 5 to 10 second,
it's a legitimate good question.
It is. I think it turns on immediately, but let's go back and check. Does it start when they blow it live for the whistle, or do they just turn it off for 15 seconds and then turn it back on? I have Jack. Leave it to Jack to have a question like that. Those little 5 seconds matter in between the play being blown live and getting ready. I would imagine that it has to be on during it, because you would say that, like, if you're coming out of a timeout, Jerry, think of it this way. They haven't blown it live they haven't blown the play live yet. You have to be talking to your coach to get the play in immediately.
Yeah.
But Jack's point, we'll ask for sure, Jack. That's not a hard question to find the answer to.
I'm looking for it now, so maybe I'll get it here in a second. And while I'm looking for that, Jerry, you can answer this super chat from Juan Garza. Thank you, Juan. He says, Jerry, are you worried with French taking the visits to LSU and Miami? He did say after his official of Texas, he wanted to do a pool party to Texas. Is that a cop-out? So is it maybe obvious to the Longhorns?
I think he's a Texas lean, pretty healthy lean headed into these visits. These schools are going to try to make it as tough on Texas as possible. I think if he showed up in Austin this weekend, people would think, this thing's over. So there's an element in there.
I don't like visiting two schools as opposed to just one.
But I'll say this. That's these are schools trying that. This is where the pressure hits for these kids in recruiting. His decision's a month out. He put that target up early, August 30th. It's his mom's birthday. So these schools have been working and working and working to get him on campus one last time before that decision. Here you go.
And our next question comes from Kabir, and he asks, what's the floor for this season, and would the ceiling be a national championship?
I know what Bobby's is, but I'll let him say it.
How do you know that?
Based on last week.
Yeah, the floor for me, the absolute floor for this team, in my opinion, is 8-4.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, do I think they're going to be there? No. I think it's going to be a 10-win regular season team, just based on what I see. That's the most likely for me. But the floor is definitely 8, based if they lose to Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, UTSA, Colorado State, UL Monroe, something happens, right? Something drastically happens. So that's 6 right there. They're going to win 2 others to get to 8. That would be the absolute floor. The upside, I do believe, is a national championship. Quinn Ewers catches fire. They can protect him and break through some teams that are good on defense. And the defensive front steps up. The secondary steps up. I do think that's the – look, they finished 4th last year, or 3rd or 4th, however you want to categorize it, a year ago. And they've got a year older quarterback. I mean, that's impressive. So let's see where it goes.
Okay, Bobby, why don't you tell folks out there about Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm?
Yeah, absolutely. Adam always sponsors our Wednesday coffee and football, as well as State of the Program, which is coming up here in a couple hours. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, including ATV or motorcycle, give Adam and his group a chance to earn your business. If you think you may be due some level of compensation, reach out to them. It's all free. LoweyLawFirm.com, no strings attached. They've got 20 plus years of experience. That's LoweyLawFirm.com. We appreciate Adam for his ongoing sponsorship of On Texas Football.
Hey, I want to bring one up, Blake.
Go ahead.
Andy from Lufkin. Good morning. I saw this earlier. Good morning from Lufkin High School. First Lufkin Panthers game is August 30th versus Longview. I've said it before. If I had one high school game I could go to, I could schedule my own schedule. Now it would be Lufkin at Longview. My favorite high school game in the state. Now, I've been to some good ones there, but that stadium, the Lufkin-Longview rivalry, the guy making the wolf noise the whole game. East Texas, Friday. Has that SEC feel, by the way, that game. It's like SEC high school feel in that game. So that would be my game. Andy, have fun at that one. You never know where my car will go.
So the dead period, as you said earlier, Jerry, ends at midnight. Juan wants to know, do coaches actually contact kids at midnight? Well, it's kind of late if they do.
No, they've been in contact with these kids. They just can't have face-to-face. So you can't be on a campus and have face-to-face contact with the coaches. There's been a lot of communications, calls, whatnot. Even during those periods, anytime a kid can pick up a phone and call a coach. So it's never – I think when the dead period is, there's kind of a misconception with that no contact period, never, ever, ever. It's not that. It's the face-to-face contact.
And then we'll take 2 more questions here. Larry Trevino, how much playing time, in y'all's opinion, will Colin Simmons get? And how many sacks do you think he'll have?
I'm going with 6 sacks and quite a bit of playing time, especially second half of the season when they got to get to the quarterback.
Bobby?
I think he's a situational player that gets 15 snaps or so a game, and I think it's going to be 3 to 4. I think Trey Moore in that role, Ethan Burke in that role, Colton Vosick. I think that the older players are going to get a lot of time early and prove it or not. I think Colin actually may start getting more snaps similar to what we saw with Anthony Hill later in the year. So early on, I would say 10 to 15 snaps a game. Later in the season, 15 to 25. And that's when his sack number may come up.
All I got to say with Colin Simmons in the sack numbers is that left tackle for Colorado State wiltering in that heat. You better have a little body quickness when fresh Colin rolls out there in that game. That's all I'm going to say. Else he's going to just watch somebody run past him. Jason, Silsbee versus Jasper's the best. That's a heck of a game in Southeast Texas. Also, West Orange Stark at Jasper's, one of my favorite high school games I've ever gone to as a fan, taking away me working in the business. But there's some good ones.
And our last question for today, Alan wants you to call your shot, and you can't say Quinn Ewers. That's cheating. Who scores the first touchdown of the season?
Let's say this. Let's hope it's Cedric Baxter on a 4-yard run.
Why?
Because that means Texas is in the red zone. Rod Babers isn't going to pull out what's left of his hair, and Texas moved Colorado State off the ball.
Rod, there's two funny things about that. One, Rod doesn't have much hair left. And two, Rod would pull out what he doesn't have left if they don't do better in the red zone this year.
Texas needs to get in the red zone. The first possession of the game, they need to move Colorado State off the ball up front and run the ball downhill into the end zone against Colorado State. That's what needs to happen.
Rod probably has 10 pages just on the red zone alone, by the way, guys.
Yes.
I've sat next to him, and he's got this notebook, and literally it is folded notes of Texas's issues in the red zone from a year ago, charted versus the previous year, et cetera. He likes to go mad scientist on that stuff for sure. I think Cedric Baxter is a good example. You know who I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with Johntay Cook, though. A little pass, a little slant RPO action from about 15 yards out.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. We want to thank them, along with Goodr, Babbel, and, of course, BetterHelp for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in. The great questions, the super chats. Bobby, tell folks what they can expect later today.
Well, we are 7 days away from football going on. Jerry, myself, CJ are going to talk a little bit for State of the Program today. Then we have a live stream tonight as well. On TexasFootball.com, we are a day away from having Michael Terry on campus. That's the young man out of San Antonio, Alamo Heights. Jonah Williams out of Galveston Ball also expected to be in attendance, as well as top-ranked juniors in the state like John Turntine, big offensive lineman out of North Crowley. So all of that said, there's a lot of recruiting news going on TexasFootball.com. There's a lot of team stuff that we're waiting on to see what happens. Join us, if you would, become an OG at OTF on Texas Football. Use promo code OTFOG $39.95 for 1 year. When you use that promo code, you get $20 off that subscription.
Forgot I was muted there. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell so you're notified anytime any video is posted or when we go live. In between that on TexasFootball.com, you should be covered. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.